You're listening to the official Push Square podcast featuring Ben and Ben. Do you push square?
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Push Square podcast. My name's Ben Potter and I'll be your host for the official podcast of the best PlayStation website on the internet, pushsquare.com. And joining me as always, even though it's only been 25 times, is Ben Tarrant. A quarter of a century, Tarrant.
We're old.
Right? That's... I don't really want to divulge our ages, but that's a big number for us.
Silver anniversary.
Kinda, yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad, actually. Not too bad. How you doing?
Yes, fine. It's been a month.
It has. Almost for us recording now, almost to the day.
Yes, we are holding off for a few days so we can talk to King Barker, who we will talk to later on, about both Outlast 2 and Yooka-Laylee, arguably games that aren't as big as last month's games, but we're making do, Tarrant. We're making do.
And they're pretty different, so most people will be covered there.
Yeah, so we'll hear from him a bit later on. We will also be talking news, obviously. We'll have a Moan of the Month. We'll be talking about what we've been playing, and then we've got some audience questions before we wrap this little bugger up in a nice little bow.
Lovely.
Nice little bow. Are you ready?
I am. Let's do this.
News. News time. First up, do you see that Call of Duty live stream yesterday? Or any of it? Or just the trailer?
I literally just caught the trailer. It's no secret that I've been fully desensitized to the Call of Duty franchise for a long time. So
well, you and many others.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't about to waste time watching the live stream, but I did catch the 2-odd minute trailer that they dropped in it. Apparently the live stream was pretty cheesy.
Oh, I imagine it is. It's like... I feel like the kind of viewership that they were catering towards was kind of the people that the Spike VGAs think that they cater for.
Right.
In terms of just being a bit, this is kind of embarrassing. Oh, stop patronising us. You're being a bit patronising with your terminology there.
Well,
like
suppose,
turning your seat backwards. How do you do, kids?
I suppose a lot of the market that's going to really care about this, especially for the multiplayer, are younger people.
Yes, I saw a child the other day wearing a child-sized Call of Duty branded shirt. So they make merchandise for children. But that exists.
They're like a 15 minimum game.
Yeah, they're usually 18s. They usually are 18s. And they're going back to World War II, as expected.
Yep.
From the leak that we got a while ago. Call of Duty World War II is what they're calling it. Sounds silly, but then so did Battlefield 1, so I'm sure we'll get over it.
Yes, Battlefield 1 still sounds ridiculous.
It is very weird. They can't then do Battlefield 1, 2, can they?
No, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot, which is rather apt for a World War 1 game.
Yes.
Anyway.
Notorious for shooting each other in the foot, World War 1. Happened a lot. Yeah, COD World War II. What do you think? Because obviously this is probably not in reaction to the success of Battlefield 1, because obviously that's way too quick of a turnaround. This thing's been in development for a few years now. But why do you think they've taken this step, and do you think it's going to pay off for them?
Well, I think if you look at the history of Call of Duty, especially since Black Ops, it's just got more and more future-based, and they fine-tuned that to such a degree that it was boring to play, and they'd gone so far in the future it couldn't go any further until the human race had gone extinct and you were playing as aliens with guns.
Right.
But I think everybody wanted it. It was the biggest kind of community thing, was like, well, we want to go back to this phrase, boots on the ground. Because everybody...
Did you see the poster where there was, I think Nathan Dighton tweeted this, there was at least 2 or 3 people with at least one boot off the ground.
Exactly. So,
which is, just false advertising, really.
Yeah, awful.
Disgraceful. Yeah.
I just don't... I know why they're going back that way, but I think anything that's annualized, I've got a real issue with annualized games now, except your sports games, because they don't need to change. You just change the players in it, because that's all that matters. You know, like your racing games, you just change whoever's in which team of a season. But Call of Duty, people are having the expectations of a whole new game, and then they whinge and whine when it's the same game. And I know they've split between 3 developers, but it's still Call of Duty year on year on year, so people are going to get bored of it.
Activision are they're in an unenviable position, because they moved to Modern Warfare and people were like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then they slowly brought it forward into the future and people started to drop off. And it reached the point with Infinite Warfare, by all accounts, not a bad game, where you're using jetpacks and you're wall running, and the online is almost impenetrable unless you're either playing from day one or you're a Call of Duty veteran. That is not how you bring new players in.
No.
And for me personally, I couldn't give a crap about a futuristic story if it's attached to a Call of Duty game, because I know exactly what I'm going to get. What I do like about the fact that they're switching time periods, and we've spoken about this before when we talked about Battlefield 1, is I find the 2 World Wars to be a far more emotive and interesting time period to cover in a shooter, because there are so many stories to tell. And for me personally, I find it a lot more engaging. I find it a lot easier to get emotionally invested in a story like that.
No, definitely.
And so I am interested, but it's too late for me. I'm not going to buy it. Like it's the ship has sailed on Call of Duty for me, and that's a real shame. But equally, what they're doing here is there's obviously a huge group of people who went from Call of Duty to Battlefield to play Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
But those players are arguably completely different from the group of players that are probably still playing Infinite Warfare's online portion. And I doubt that they're going to find a way to get jetpacks and wall running into the multiplayer of Call of Duty World War II.
No.
So they're going to alienate an audience that potentially is all they have left, because everyone else has gone to Battlefield. So it's difficult, but I'm personally not interested in the multiplayer. I hope the single player is good, and it sounds like they're trying to do something interesting in terms of you're supposedly part of a squad, and it's all about being brothers in arms, but you will fight as different people across the conflict. I wasn't too big of a fan. Did you ever play Battlefield 1 in the end?
No.
I wasn't a huge fan of the little stories they did, the short stories, which were 2 or 3 missions from different... I found, as we talked about on here, that you couldn't really get invested in any of the characters, because it felt like they were trying to force so much character development into such a short period of time.
Right.
And I just felt alienated by it all. But this, if they properly focus it, could be really good. They've supposedly got a dark co-op element. I don't know if that means you're just playing through the game in co-op, or if they're going to do something different.
Maybe you betray your co-op person. That'd be cool.
How would that work, Tarrant?
I don't know. There were people that defected. Something that
to the Nazis?
Yeah.
I don't think there were, Tarrant.
You'd be surprised. But you make a really good point about the multiplayer, how it's gone from jumpy jetpacks straight back to the kind of bolt action snipers and stuff. You're going to lose a lot of the 10-year-olds that are used to that Twitch gameplay.
Yeah.
And it's going right back, because it's not. You can't make World War II Twitch. You just can't. And
it's also going to play havoc for esports as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not going to have that instant... Wow, yeah, it's a brave move for Call of Duty.
Yeah, by going back to familiar ground, it's actually quite a ballsy move. Bearing in mind, though, that they do have 3 development studios, so there's no reason why someone is in charge of the esports one, someone is in charge of the historical, emotional one, and someone is in charge of the one that no one likes.
Well, that's actually not a bad shout. If they stop doing this more futuristic-kist... And
if we got every 3 years a World War game, that would be awesome. That's enough time. If we got a World War II game every year, that would get a bit boring.
Maybe they're going to do that. Maybe they're going to start cycling, just as they cycle developers, start cycling eras.
Yeah, themes.
Yeah, we need a dinosaur
they used to do it, didn't they? With every other Modern Warfare game, there was a Black Ops, for example.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't carry on doing that, except split it between 3, and then, it's prolonged. People don't get as bored.
Fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
See, we should be on the marketing team for this. We're smashing it.
To be fair, that might be exactly what they're doing.
There we go. Then we're basically soothsayers of the game industry.
What's that guy who thinks he's all that, who does predictions and stuff?
Isn't that Colin Moriarty?
No, not that guy. He's dead to us. No, the gaming... Pacta. Pacta's got nothing on us.
Yeah.
Screw that guy.
It's all about Ben and Ben.
Moving on. What's the next one?
So, Resident Evil 7 did really well.
Right.
Well, it did 3.5 million units.
Wow, that's really good.
But not good enough for Capcom.
Oh, Capcom, why?
Because they wanted 4 million. That was their sales target. 4 million. So it's technically considered a failure.
A failure. Does that mean... Do we know what that 4 million means? Is that the 4 million they would have needed to get to make a healthy profit or to break even?
It'd be a healthy profit. You'd never announce a break-even projection. It would be a healthy profit projection. It would be, like I said, to consider it a sales success. I can't imagine it cost that much to make. Like 4 million. No, not 4 million.
The marketing on it was insane.
But Sony were backing it heavily as well. Sony needed it because it was a PSVR pusher.
Well, exactly. Speaking of which, even though it's obviously not a failure with those numbers, if they consider it a failure, what does that mean for bigger companies supporting VR in their games?
Yeah, exactly.
If the headline is Resident Evil 7 a failure and it's got VR attached to it as well, should companies be worried by that? Do you think that's going to put people off?
I don't know. I mean, I've not heard someone say a bad word about that game. And I played the kitchen demo, and I played that at yours, didn't I, when I was trying out VR?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Like, I could totally, if I could stomach VR, I could play that game through on VR, and it would be a really special horror experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad that it's hindered by that stupidly high sales target. Like, 3.5 million is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But you're right, it's gonna give a lot of VR developers pause for thought, especially ones that are just PSVR exclusives. Because imagine Resident Evil 7 had the glory of being on PS4 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, that'd be interesting.
That's a shame. That's also insane. Hopefully they don't feel like, hey, the only way we can really get that number up to 8 million is to go back to the rubbish old Resident Evil games that were action games. Where
God, hopefully not.
Everyone's head split open into a million tentacles and had giant bulbous eye things that you had to shoot.
Have they ever done a Silent Hill Resident Evil crossover?
I don't think they have, no.
That'd be quite cool.
It would, but then Capcom and Konami would have to be best friends.
That's never going to happen.
Which would be pretty hard, wouldn't it? Uncharted 4 The Lost Legacy has been confirmed for a 22nd of August release date, and it'll cost 35 quid. But, Tarrant, if you bought the... I don't know why I'm saying United. Uncharted 4 Season Pass, why do we write Uncharted 4 UC4? Uncharted's all one word. It's confusing, isn't it? Confuses the hell out of me. If you bought the season pass, you get it free. You get it free, which is really cool. Good. You also get a digital copy of Jak and Daxter if you pre-order.
Which is also really good. They're not messing about with that.
That's the remaster, obviously. They really are taking care of everyone there, because I think that's a fair price to pay. I'll happily buy that. It's supposedly going to be about 10 hours.
Yeah, it's supposed to be quite a big expansion. And looking at Left Behind, which was by no means a small expansion, they put their heart and soul into these things. Yes.
They released a cinematic as well, a cutscene from the game.
Okay.
Looks great.
Cool.
It's just like, what's her name? Elena. It seems like Chloe facially has morphed every single game she's been in.
Yeah.
Like, she looks totally different. You can sort of tell it's her, but if you just track those characters from Uncharted 1 to 4 and then to this, you can see that they've just been completely redesigned every time, which is a bit weird. But looking forward to that. That'll be good, I'm sure.
Not a jet ski in sight.
Well, I mean, they were on a river in the cutscene, Terrence, so you never know.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I actually have the Nathan Drake collection now.
Good.
I've been up to my neck in work, but I plan to live stream my experiences.
If you want me to, I can upload your save data from my PS4, because I should still have it.
Ah, yes. That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Carry on, at least so you don't have to play through the jet ski section as well. In fact, in the cinematic they released, literally 2 seconds afterwards, a young Nathan Drake comes flying up the river the other way, bashing off each bank and shooting a grenade launcher wildly around.
That's me.
That's you. Well, that's everyone. That's everyone. Awful. Awful section. What's next?
So Housemarque?
I do.
The guys that did Resogun. Their next game, Nex Machina?
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 I think it's Machina.
Machina. How do you say is it Ex Machina?
Ex Machina, yes.
It's a good film, that. I've never been able to say it properly. I've never actually had to say it out loud.
I think it's because that's Latin, that term, Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
It's like God something machines. You know what? I'll look it up. You carry on.
Cool. Anyway, those guys, that game, they've released gameplay footage for it, and it looks really, really cool. I kind of rolled my eyes when I saw that it was another top-down game, kind of like Alienation. But they seem to have merged that arcade style, like thousands of particles, crazy neon stuff. They've merged the Resogun stuff with Alienation's kind of mechanics, its top-down mechanic. And it looks like a really cool twin-stick arcade top-down shooter crazy thing that Housemarque seem to be pretty well renowned for by now.
Nice.
So, and it's being available for PC as well, which I think is the first time they've done that.
Okay. Was Alienation on other consoles?
No, I'm pretty sure that was a PS4 exclusive.
Right. That's on Plus this month as well.
Yes, it is, which I'm quite glad about because Abzu was the American one and I've literally just bought Abzu.
I would have thought you'd have bought Alienation as a Housemarque fan.
I have it, but it was more the bitterness of having just bought Abzu.
Right. Okay. Abzu's all right.
Yeah,
it's a nice game.
Right.
It's a nice game.
It's quite relaxing and stuff, but it's
you can tell exactly where it draws its inspirations from, though.
Oh Christ! It's Journey Underwater, but that's not a bad thing.
It's Journey and Flower. It's Journey and Flower combined.
Yeah, when you get all of the fish following you, it's very Flower.
Yes,
but Flower's great as well. I like all of those games have a place in like my mindset. If I'm in that kind of mood, then it's such a good game to sit down and chill out to.
Yeah,
but I'm going to talk more about what I'm playing at the minute anyway, a bit later.
Okay. Deus Ex Machina means God from the machine, just so you know.
It's pretty funky.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's interesting. Although, obviously, its meaning in the sense of that film is slightly different. In the original Latin, or Greek, it would, according to Wikipedia, it was a machine used to bring actors playing gods onto the stage. So it would be like a crane that literally lowered the actor playing God onto the stage. Huh. God from the machine. So there we go. Anyway.
That's less grand.
It's less philosophical, isn't it? Next up, Star Wars Battlefront 2. We had a leaked bit of trailer, and then we had a full-blown trailer come out at Star Wars Celebration.
Indeed.
Now, this isn't the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, obviously, which was amazing, but this will have a story-driven single-player campaign that is canon, following the story of Iden Versio. Iden Versio. Yeah, anyway. The commander of an Imperial Special Forces unit. It'll also include space battles, whatever that means, couch multiplayer split screen, and the expected 40-player battles. DICE executes so well. It also ditches a season pass and opts for optional cosmetics, model instead, a la Overwatch, and releases on the 17th of November.
Wow.
What do you think?
It's ticked all of the boxes that I had complaints about from Battlefront, ditching the season pass, because that was awful. They walled so much behind season pass and deluxe edition this and that, and it awful. Yeah. And actually there was an interview about this, and I can't remember who it was from the company, but they were saying that kind of like having a season pass in an always online experience, it doesn't match because you wall off players, so you immediately segregate your audience. And he made comparisons to Overwatch, saying, you know how the loot boxes are just cosmetic. They're still financially viable because people love your game and want to invest in those cosmetic items. But because they are cosmetic, the people that love your game but are financially constrained won't do that or don't want to spend the money. They don't have to because it is cosmetic, and that I really, really like that. Titanfall's done it as well. Titanfall 2, so nothing's really walled off. They do it. Most of their updates are free, and you can get Prime Titans. It's like £4, which is on the face of it pretty ridiculous, and it's pure cosmetic. But I grabbed it for the Titan that I love playing because the game is so much fun, and I want to feel special in my Titan. And it's just a nice model that it doesn't cheapen the online experience. So out of all of that, because space battles and a single player were almost a guarantee inclusion, just because of how many people were complaining about it. But I'm really glad to see that they're dropping that kind of negative marketing for this one.
Yeah, that's great news, and on the face of it, that all sounds good. I do have a couple of things that I would like to have confirmed that they've addressed, i.e. get rid of that stupid bloody token system to get into vehicles.
Yes.
Because basically what we want is Battlefield 1 style combat, where it's a big open map and there's loads of vehicles that respawn and so on and so forth. When they say space battles, does that mean that you can get into a spaceship on the ground and fly up into space and fight in space? Is that what that means? Because they already had dogfights.
I doubt that. What I would imagine it means is that there are maps based purely in space, kind of like the originals. But
they already have that, though, don't they? They already do that.
But I'd imagine it's more to the degree of where the frigates and stuff, so you could get out and destroy frigates, and that was the point. So you could fly
into the big ships and get out and fight in there. Yeah. And so on and so forth. Yeah, that's cool. That was stuff I liked as well. Here's my concern is that I think people are hearing all this good stuff and quite rightly are going mental over it, saying this is brilliant, they've listened to everything, but just please remember how you behaved in exactly the same way on the lead up to Star Wars Battlefront, the original re-release.
True.
Because everyone was losing their minds. The beta was great and everyone was like, yeah, this is amazing. And then it disappointed a lot of people. And I think people just need to, it's okay to get excited, but please just temper your expectations because they've promised a lot here. And there's a good chance that at least some of it might be a bit wonky. And I just don't want people to be furious like they tend to do because it happens all the time in the games industry and fans of video games, particularly with Star Wars, because it's so important to so many people. And people get so excited. Well, yeah, it's not a cult following. If people get super excited for it and it lets them down in the smallest way, it's instantly the worst thing ever. Better send a death threat to someone.
Oh, God,
right?
Yeah.
It's just... I just want people to be aware that it may not be the best thing ever made. It's okay to be excited, but please just temper your expectations at least a little bit.
Wise words.
At least a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
What's also interesting is Mitch Dyer, who was a writer for IGN, is one of the narrative writers for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Cool, so it'll have loads of typos.
Hey!
I'm joking. IGN is a great website, and I'm sure Mitch Dyer is fantastic at doing words.
So, from the coolness of Battlefront 2 to something a little bit more sobering, Killstrain. If you ever heard of that or played it, your time's up. You can't play it anymore. They're turning the servers off, alongside a lot of other Sony San Diego titles that I'd never heard of, so I won't bore anyone by mentioning all of them, but less about Killstrain, more about the fact that it happens. People probably roll their eyes when I moan about servers. We had it as a moan of the month about always online components of games being essentially finite, and all Killstrain is a featured issue that if a game flops, if they can't afford to keep that game running, it's gone. So the select people that loved Killstrain and played Killstrain every day aren't going to be able to access that game because it's gone. It's gone forever. The servers are off, and it's an always online game. So you're just going to boot up something you paid money for less than a year ago, might I add. And that's
the nature of the beast, though, sadly. If you want to make a game that relies on always online, you've got to hope that A, it's really good, and B, that people care. And if people don't care, that's a shame. But, you can't be surprised when then you're having to shutter it. And, those people who love it and want to play it all the time, I'm sorry, but if people don't care, then that's not the developer's fault, and that's not the people who don't care's fault. They've got no obligation to support this game.
No. It's scary when you think that games like Battlefront can just be switched off.
Yeah, arguably those bigger games are safe for a while, hopefully. I went into Warhawk last week.
Oh, yeah.
On PS3, still servers.
Amazing.
Still people playing. Only a few, but they're there.
But it's like,
which is great. I think Sony turned off the official servers, but people are still there. They still have the capacity to host their own, which I think is what a lot of these games should look into if they want to prolong their game's life. I remember playing, what's it called? Singularity, which I bloody loved on PS3. Really underrated game. It's sort of like a BioShock clone style thing. Yeah. Really cool, and I was trying to get the platinum for it, but there was only ever one game going in multiplayer because people were just hosting them, and sometimes during the day, because you had to play a certain amount of games to get a trophy, you would just click host game and you just go out for a while and come back, and enough people would have joined, and because you're the host you don't get kicked out, that the games will just play themselves through, and there'll be like 3 people on each side. These games can continue even if they limp on, but you need to give the players the capacity to host their own games.
Exactly. I mean, that happened with Halo and Quake. I mean, Quake 3, that arena one on PC, they shut the servers for that ages ago and turned it all to Quake Live. I still have my copy of Quake 3 and can boot that up and play it. There's loads of games going because people play it every single day. They run the servers themselves. And it's crazy. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a nice way of resolving that kind of issue, is to make that option viable for consumers.
I don't know how easy that is to implement, but it's certainly something that I'm sure these developers have looked into and haven't included for one reason or another. Yeah. But yeah, that's I mean, if bloody Warhawk is still limping on after 10 years,
it must have been pretty bad for.
Then hopefully, other games can look into that. Anyway, finally, Bethesda are returning to E3 this year with their own conference, and they'll be there on the 11th of June, which is a Sunday. And at the moment, they haven't got too much officially announced. And Prey obviously is out very soon. They released a 1-hour demo, which is setting off warning sirens all over the world.
Why is that?
As in, why is it setting off warning sirens? Yeah. Why do you think they're giving away the first hour of their game for free? That's like, I think, to me, that seems like there's just a worrying lack of interest, and pre-orders are low or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I want to succeed. I'm interested in it. I've downloaded the demo. I want to play it. And you've played it too. It's great by all accounts. But I think genuinely, I never hear anyone talking about it. And them making such a huge move like this is probably indicative of maybe a bit of panic behind the scenes.
See, I was only confused by your statement because I am completely of the opposite school of thought. I think it's an incredibly ballsy move. They did it with Dishonored 2, which was at the point considered a sales success, and then when did
they do that?
They gave away a 2-hour demo of it.
I didn't even remember that happening.
That was like it was not long after our last episode went live.
So it's post launch, obviously.
Yeah, it was post launch. But what I think the whole demo with Prey lark is about is following on from their review policy. So they don't give journalists review code until the day before, meaning that you can't get a review out before launch. Mm-hmm. Which is obviously their way of manipulating the marketing to a degree where people will only hear previews and that's it. I think, obviously, they're probably going to be having pre-order issues and stuff like that. I agree that now that you've mentioned it, that could be how it could be construed. But also, maybe they're trying to forcefully put the opinion back into the hands of consumers. So where someone would read a scathing review from a busybody off of some website like Polygon and would never go out and buy the game, even though they'd actually probably love it. Now that they've tried this one demo, then they can make the decision for themselves. I honestly think Bethesda's putting the marketing machine completely into their hands and the decision back into the consumers based on everything that Bethesda's showing them. Because the first hour is brilliant.
That's a good point, but equally, it just sounds like they're shooting themselves in both feet. Firstly, they're taking away the press's ability to trumpet if their game is good, which, I mean, Prey is very unlikely to get anything worse than 8, I'd have thought, based on what I've seen and what people I know have played. It certainly seems to be in the upper echelon of being reviewed, right?
Of course. I mean, it's basically BioShock, so...
Right, so it's BioShock and Dishonored in space, and they've taken away the critics' ability to champion their game pre-launch, so they've done that, and now they're giving away the first hour of their game. And I get the idea of the fact that they want to maybe hand it back to the consumers to make up their own mind, but surely it would have been better to not do this and maybe release just a short demo, because people could play this and just think, no, I don't want to buy this. And then they've definitely lost a sale. It just seems like a lose-lose to me. It doesn't make sense. I understand the rationale, definitely where you're coming from and where they could be coming from, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me for them to do that.
I might be looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, to be fair.
Maybe.
I don't know. The first hour, I'm just thinking back to the preview stuff, like the first hour is very spectacle, very...
Huge twist. Huge twist right away, right?
As well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think maybe they're having a tough sell just because Prey... What was Prey, you know? How many people realistically...
Prey was a weird game.
Exactly. And how many people are really going to look at that and think like, oh, wow, Prey. It just seems like a bit of an enigma. It almost seems like a new IP.
Yeah, I think it's like the Dishonored... It's weird. Dishonored 2 had a weird apathy surrounding it.
Yeah.
Where it was a good game.
I felt that.
But it seemed like no one cared. You talk to people about Dishonored, they go, sort of shrug.
Yeah.
And that's... I imagine Titanfall 2 sold well, but that was another one that it seemed to me was just people going, no. The people that played it liked it, but it was just another great game, which is a ridiculous statement, but there can be only so many great games in a short period of time. They have to either be outstanding or totally unique to stand out at this point. Very few studios are pumping out terrible games. And so people are just generally quite apathetic towards it all.
The quality really has shot up, hasn't it? Especially this year. This year's felt like blockbuster after blockbuster.
Yeah, every month there's been good stuff.
Crazy.
Mass Effect
but good.
Yeah, anyway, the story was that they're going back to E3 and they could be announcing another Doom, another Elder Scrolls. A lot of people predicted there was going to be an Elder Scrolls showing up last year, which there wasn't. I think it's probably been long enough, right? 2011?
I honestly think
we ready?
They're trying to bleed this Elder Scrolls Online because it is making them a fortune.
Not on console, though, surely.
No, on console it's not as good at all. But in terms of the numbers of the cosmetic stuff, it's making them a small fortune. So they
can continue to push that.
Well, they did the Morrowind expansion, didn't they? And I guess they don't want to oversaturate the Elder Scrolls stuff. And they had the Skyrim thing keeping people tied over. It feels like the right year this year.
Yeah, I get an email every other day about the Elder Scrolls Online. It does my head in.
Yeah,
about all the tiny little things they're adding. So I don't care about it. Stop talking about it.
I quite liked what I played of it, but it's just so big. It's like a 65 gig thing, and every update you have to re-download the whole thing.
It's huge. I didn't get on with it, to be honest. I felt like if I was going to play a fantasy RPG, I'd probably rather stomach World of Warcraft because that is the fantasy RPG. I know there are some other good ones as well, and this was a weird. It was like if the Elder Scrolls was or Skyrim, for example, was was Coca-Cola, right? And they just added loads of water to it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can see it. It feels, it tastes like it, but it's not what I want.
That's a good analogy. That's a really good analogy, actually.
It's a shame. Just disgusting Coca-Cola. Elder Scrolls Online. It's fine. It's just fine. People love it, though. I wasn't too keen, but hopefully, oh God, imagine if they announced the Elder Scrolls Online 2.
Oh God, what a waste.
I guarantee there'll be an expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online.
They'll do Elder Scrolls Skyrim, won't they?
It's already there. Skyrim's already there.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Yeah, you get to be Nords or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, that's all our news. That is all of our news we got there.
News.
Time to talk to King Barker about Outlast 2 and Yooka-Laylee. Which order will it be in? I don't know. It's not next week yet. And joining me now on the phone, the king of pushsquare.com, Sammy Barker. Hello, Sammy.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming back and talking to us about 2 games today that you've reviewed over the... What month have we just gone through? April. That was it. We're already in May when we're recording this. It's Yooka-Laylee and Outlast 2. First up, Yooka-Laylee. You reviewed this and I don't think you had the best of times, right?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with this one, to be honest. I just didn't have that much fun with it at all, really.
Okay. So it's obviously been, how long has it been now? A few weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, and it seemed like this was in the public eye for quite a while, especially with all the pre-release stuff. They had the toy box thing that they released.
Yeah, like a little demo, yeah.
Yeah, and did you ever play that?
No.
Okay, because I'm not sure if it had really developed much from there, or if there was much of a comparison really to make.
The problem with the game is that when I was playing it, and the best way I can describe it is when I was playing it, it didn't feel... Do you remember back in the day on the PS2, PS1, N64 era, every game was trying to be like Super Mario 64. Every game had that kind of hub world with the levels built off it, and you do lots of different tasks. There'd be racing missions and all that sort of stuff, and you collect your MacGuffins or whatever, and that's your progression. So Yooka-Laylee is exactly like that, but it doesn't feel like a revival of the best games in the genre. It doesn't feel like Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie or even Jak and Daxter to me. To me, it feels like one of those dodgy movie tie-ins that tried to be like one of those back in the day. It feels like a phony, really. It feels like an imitator of those games. But having said that, I mean, I haven't played Banjo-Kazooie for... 20 years probably. Right. So maybe if I went back to Banjo-Kazooie now, I'd feel exactly the same way about that as I do with Yooka-Laylee. But it just doesn't feel tight enough. It's just not very good.
Now, I've only dabbled in it briefly, but for me, it seemed there were lots of weird disconnects almost when you open the chests, you have to physically jump into the chest. It's not sort of an animation where the thing is just awarded to you, is it? It's just sort of... It's weird. It's like someone's built it's kind of a make-your-own fan-made 3D old-school platformer with mascots kind of thing. It's almost as if, to me, it felt like someone had made it in, for example, Little Big Planet, where they're just trying to ape what they've seen, but not quite capturing what made it that good in the first place.
Exactly. And I don't think the art direction's very good either. There are some good characters in there. I'll give credit Yooka and Laylee and the snake Trouser.
Yes,
they're good. Like admittedly they're good, but there's also some really terrible character designs in there. I don't know if you spotted the vending machine.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
It's just like, what's going on?
What's sort of the end goal for this game then? I'm assuming it's a hub world type deal where it's collect everything in this area, then move on to the next one or something.
Yeah. It's got some nice ideas. So you go into so the basic premise, the plot is that pages from a book have been stolen, and that's kind of the thrust to get you through it. You're collecting back all the pages, or pages as they're called.
Right.
And there are 5 worlds connected by a hub world, and you can spend these pages to kind of grow each level. So I think that's a nice idea. It gives you a sense of progression within each level. You kind of go into a level, do what you can do, come out, and then you can enhance the size of that level. And then there's even more stuff to do, which is quite a nice idea. But some of the worlds, some of the worlds aren't very good. There's a casino world, which is just so bland. It's just a big, flat, open floor plan. They do some stuff with slot machines, but it's like, whoever thought like puzzles with slot machines would be fun? And then there's like quizzes along the way, like little trivia quizzes. And it's like, I get that this was a thing in Banjo-Kazooie. You know, this is something that Rare used to do in the 90s. But could you imagine a modern Ratchet and Clank throwing a bunch of quiz questions at you? It would just, it just wouldn't happen, would it?
No. Is it very annoying or kind of endearing that everyone speaks in a weird garbled voice?
Very annoying, I think.
Okay.
Exceedingly annoying. But again, that's another thing. They had to do that because that's how those games were, and that's what they'd promised. So I think I don't want to go too hard on them, because I think we've seen Kickstarters come out and they've been late and they've under-delivered and they've not been what they've said they'll be. And with this, I think they delivered the game they said they were going to deliver. They had good communication with the people that backed it. People got what they were funding. So you can't be too hard on them, really, I don't think.
Right.
It's just that what they made is... I mean, I've been really hard on it already in this podcast, but I mean, I don't hate it. I just think it's very average.
Is there someone you'd recommend it to? Even as you said, you played Banjo-Kazooie back in the day. Were you looking forward to Yooka-Laylee before it came out? And do you think it could stand to potentially disappoint other people that were in your position? Or is there someone out there that could genuinely really enjoy it?
Well, we joke that the people on Nintendo Life will like it.
Right.
Because they seem to be more accepting of these kind of games.
Terrible games.
But from what I've seen, a lot of people that were looking forward to it have been disappointed with it. And I think the most damning thing is they recently announced that they're doing Jak and Daxter as a PS2 classic on the PS4. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if you want to get a 3D platformer, get Jak and Daxter 1, because that is still better than this.
Right. That's fair enough. Well, I mean, your review is out and has been out for a little while. What did you give it in the end?
I think I gave it a 6. So I wasn't that hard on it. I think because we're a few weeks removed from it, I've got even more negative thinking back on it.
Right.
But it did grow on me that I say there are some bad worlds in it. The casino world is terrible. But like the last world I got to actually lifted my impressions, because it was kind of a Super Mario Galaxy style world, that one. So they saved the best till last there. But then the final boss fight is just awful, and I never want to talk about it ever again.
Okay. Well, the full review is up now on pushsquare.com. You can go and find that if you click on the reviews section. We're going to move on now and talk about Outlast 2. Outlast 2. I have seen the first half an hour of this. By that, I mean I've been in the same room as someone who was playing it, and I couldn't really look at the screen because it was way too much for me.
Really? You were scared?
I can't do those games at all. How do you get on with the horror games then? Do you enjoy them? Do you enjoy being scared?
See, I'm going to sound awful here because I really don't want to come across like I'm all big hard man and all that stuff. But
right.
Outlast 2 didn't scare me one bit at all.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
I don't know what it was, and I'll admit I get scared over games sometimes. But this one just did nothing for me. I don't know why because it is pretty gruesome and it is pretty tense. But no, it didn't scare me at all. I felt. I mean, do we want to dive straight into the analysis, as it were? Yeah,
go for it. Tell us about it, because I mean, you and I are wired very differently anyway, because you're more up for playing horror games than I am. But I'm amazed that it didn't faze you.
Yeah, I felt. I felt safe at all times in this game, and I think it's because of the way it's designed. When there's any danger on screen, when you're being hunted or whatever, and they want you to play kind of stealth and stuff like that. But pretty early on, I figured out that there's just a specific path they want you to take, and it's just a case of trial and error, get the right route, and you're completely safe. So you sort of, I'm going to run down this corridor and turn left. Oh, I got killed there. Okay, I'll try going right next time. Right. And it just takes all the tension out of it for me. It's just like you're figuring out which way you need to go. It's like following a sat nav or whatever. Oh, I go forward here, I go right here. Yeah, there's this horrible, nasty person chasing me, but I know he's not going to get me if I go the right direction here and go the right direction here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I would like to get your thoughts on the school sections, because there are various bits where it sort of flashes back or whatever the hell.
Right,
that's sort of a weird dream sequence where it's very linear. But that was way too much for me. I just couldn't handle looking at the screen for that, particularly with the use of the use of music.
Yeah.
With the really terrifying choir as you're walking down this corridor, just building up and up and up, and you don't know what it's building to or when it's going to end. It just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. Yeah. That did nothing for you?
No, the game tries too hard, in my opinion. The first Outlast had a moment in it. This isn't spoilers because the game's years old now, but there was a moment in the first Outlast where you got like tortured and your finger got chopped off, and that's the moment that everyone remembers from Outlast 1. And you can tell with Outlast 2 that the developers have like sat in a boardroom and been like, we need to shock people. We've got to beat that finger chop off scene. And there are so many moments in the game that are like, that you can tell they're trying to shock you. They're trying to elicit that same reaction again. And it just doesn't work because you know they're trying to do it. And as soon as you know they're trying to shock you, you're suddenly not shocked anymore. There's something that happens at the end of Outlast 2, which I won't go into, but it's just so ridiculous. Right. And the game, it's not... I don't find it psychological. It's all in your face. It's all disgusting, horrible things happening all the time. This game goes into some dark material, does it? Yes. I mean, you'll have noticed straight away that
it's quite sexual, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very. That's definitely one of the themes that they go into. But again, like you find these notes scattered around the world, as these games often do. You know, that's how they build their world, isn't it, all the time now with these notes that you pick up. And I found the writing in the notes was quite good. There's like these made up gospels and stuff, because the game's about these kind of cult Christian who are twisting the kind of the religion to their own sort of personal views and stuff like that. But you find these notes and the writing in them is really good, I thought. But then there's like these corny, hammy lines when the actual protagonist talks and stuff like that. And I just found it all at odds. In Resident Evil 7, the whole thing is kind of corny anyway, so it works there. Right. But this game's going for this really dark, really macabre subject matter with what you were saying, and then suddenly you've got the protagonist just spewing some cheesy one-liners. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Well, talking about the fundamentals of the game, because obviously compared to Resi 7, it's slightly different in its approach. This one is, I think it's fair to say, it's more sort of open world in that you're in a much bigger environment, and except you're not doubling back on yourself, are you, in this one?
No, I disagree. It's not open world at all.
Okay, I may have misspoken. What I meant was, as in it's bigger than the first one in that it's not just a building with corridors.
Yeah. It's like a ghost train, really. You kind of go through this village. You end up in some mines. But it's totally linear, and I actually think that lessens the appeal of the game for me, because in Resident Evil 7, The mansion is like a character in of itself. You learn its intricacies, you know, where the sort of all the rooms are, all the hiding places, etc., etc. With this one, you're rushing through so many different environments that look very nice, by the way. I will say that the game looks absolutely amazing, but you're rushing through all these environments that you never build up a familiarity with any of them, and it just all kind of blurs past you. That's certainly what I found anyway. But I will say, like, speaking of the gameplay, I do enjoy that camcorder mechanic that they have,
right?
And this one introduces, so if you don't know, one of the main features in Outlast is that you have a camcorder with night vision on it, and that a lot of the game is just pitch black. You can't see anything, so you need to use this night vision feature on your camera, and that's limited by batteries, which are in plentiful supply, to be fair, but it does create a tension of, I'm going to turn this off all the time and try and stumble through this dark area because I don't want to waste any battery, which is a nice idea. And some of the things they do with this one is quite cool, in that there are certain objects or certain pieces of scenery and stuff that you can actually film with your camcorder, and you build up like a log of different video entries, video diary entries, which all builds into the plot, really, because you're playing as a video journalist type person. So that's quite a cool feature that they've done, and you can look back on your own recordings and it records exactly as you recorded it. So if you zoom in while it's recording, it will record that in the game. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about as well. It gives you more context, doesn't it? Some clues about how to proceed, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So, have you played Outlast 1?
Yeah. I really liked Outlast 1, actually, but it feels like we've been on this survival horror resurgence for a few years now, and there's been quite a few of these games. It all kind of peaked with the Silent Hills teaser for me. Right. That was like my game of the year, the year that came out. Yeah. But it's being overdone now, I think. It just doesn't do anything for me anymore.
What would have to change for you to be invested, or what's your sort of dream horror game setup, if you have one?
I would do that's really, you put me on the spot there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I like in Resident Evil 7 the mixture of the combat. I like that when you can defend yourself, you have the ability to defend yourself, but you never feel like you have enough tools at your disposal to defend yourself, if that makes sense.
Right.
So you've got like one bullet in your gun, and you've got two enemies coming at you. How are you going to deal with them? You're going to lure them towards sort of some explosives or something like that. That's the kind of survival horror I like. But to quickly segue into a third game, I know you're pushed for time, but we'll do it quickly.
Go on.
Little Nightmares come out this week as well, and I reviewed that as well. That's a puzzle platformer type game. It's basically Little Big Planet in hell.
Good.
That game is brilliant. It's got some amazing artwork in it, and I think that's what makes Little Nightmares stand out, where Outlast doesn't. Outlast feels kind of retreading old ground, whereas Little Nightmares has got these crazy characters in it. Many people are watching this, and if you haven't, look up, but there's the chefs from Little Nightmares, a very distinctive character model. And there are lots. There's not lots. There's 2 or 3 other characters in the game that are like that. And it's just puzzle platforming, really. It's similar to Inside in that you're solving little environmental puzzles. They're not as good as the puzzles in Inside, but those characters and the artwork of that game really sell the experience. And I would recommend, if you want a spooky game to play, go with Little Nightmares over Outlast 2, because Little Nightmares has a little more... What's the word?
Heart?
A little more, a little more personality to it. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so it's that you think is mainly holding Outlast 2 back, in that it's not original enough. It doesn't do enough to change things up.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but it just didn't do anything for me. And looking at the other reviews, it's sort of, it's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It's a good game, but it's not an amazing game. It's just more of that.
Right. Well, if you liked Outlast 1, then I suppose it's an easy recommendation, right?
Maybe.
Game of the year. Outlast 2, though. Well, the full review, as with Yooka-Laylee, is up now on pushsquare.com. You can go and find that and read that and comment and interact and so on. Sammy, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, as always.
And we'll get you back soon.
Yes.
Moan of the Month. Yes. That time of the month for us, I guess. It's our time of the month.
Right. Generally, the podcast, yeah.
Yeah. Just to be angry about something going on in the game industry for a good reason, a bad reason, I guess you can decide. So, what we're moaning about...
Build.
Huh?
What?
What?
I said, let's find out.
Oh. Just making noises. Yeah, that. So this month we're talking about refunding digital games. Now, you can't do that on PlayStation at the minute, but Microsoft are currently trialing returns on Xbox for their store. And the stipulation is that you can return a game that has less than 2 hours of play attached to it. So not own it for 2 hours and change your mind. Own it for all eternity, but as long as you've only played 2 hours, you can return it.
Right, so conceivably could someone just buy loads of stuff in a Steam sale, never play it, and then just return it?
Yes.
That sounds so messy.
So it is currently the policy on Steam and has been for a while, and Steam say it's very successful, but everything could be on fire and Steam would probably say it was very successful. So take that with a pinch of salt.
Steam is making enough money for anything to be successful.
Exactly. But with it on Xbox, I mean, alarm bells immediately rung, especially when I saw the 2 hour mark. And actually, nicely to see was the Chinese room, so developers of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Dear Esther, they came out and rather eloquently put how much of a load of rubbish this is and how
because they make shorter games.
Exactly. So they're getting openly mugged off by this new policy. And you look at Dear Esther, and that is quite comfortably, an hour-long experience. I mean, I went and saw it live in a church in Hackney, and it was an hour-long performance. And they played through the entirety of the game.
The one that's just come out, What Remains of Edith Finch, 2 hour game.
Yeah, so
if you beat it in under 2 hours, you
can you get your money back.
You can just get all your money back.
Which is just a joke. Imagine being a developer making these meaningful, because Edith Finch, from what I've seen, is making waves. 10 out of 10 on pushsquare.com.
Yeah,
it's not a bad
WhatCulture.com gave it a 9.
There you go. It's not a bad experience. So the developers haven't made a bad game. Yeah. But you are still within your rights, according to Xbox, to refund that game. Once you've technically finished, once the credits have rolled, you are still entitled to a refund.
I think it's probably, maybe it's obviously different mindsets are gonna see it differently.
Yeah,
I used to be of the school of thought that you finish a game, you trade it in towards your next one, right? Somewhere along the way, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and I just wanted to hold on to my games because I like to have a shelf full of games.
Yeah, same. That's me. Collector.
And that, I've never even considered that applying to digital games. And when I do, for some of the reasons you just highlighted, it makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Makes me really uncomfortable.
That means I'm never going to be able to play that digital game again, presumably, because it's then gone from your account. That's it. And we all know how bloody awful Sony's infrastructure is anyway. We know they can track how long you play games for. For some reason, they don't give you that information, but they can track it. Yeah. And considering all we've heard over the years about how wonky and patched together Sony's online service is, this is surely an absolute impossibility.
Oh, you'd hope so. You'd hope so. I mean, fortunately, Xbox is only trialing it. Mm-hmm. So,
but Xbox's infrastructure is infinitely better.
Which, considering the ripples it's caused, considering the outcry it's caused, it makes me hopeful that this isn't going to catch on. I just don't agree with it. You look at any other medium, you don't buy a DVD and then watch it and then return it for the full price refund. You don't return a DVD and go, that film was rubbish, I want my money back. Because people's argument people bring up No Man's Sky in this argument, saying, well, that was a completely missold game, I deserve my money back for it. And Steam did issue refunds because of the screenshots on the Steam page were not of they found that they were not of in-game footage, which is a breach of advertising standards. So people could get a refund from Steam for the game. Mm-hmm. But in an age where post-launch patches almost completely evolve the game and change it, rightly or wrongly, I mean, that's more down to the publishers and the way that they put pressure on developers and stuff. But in an age where post-patching is so important and integral to the whole marketing scheme of a game, to be able to return a game after 2 hours is just, it's flabbergasting. And it's really scary for smaller developers, like indie developers that have these games where you could play a platformer for 3 levels and you can decide if you like it or not and then just refund it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, you just shouldn't be able to do that. You can't watch half of a DVD and take it back.
The only way it could possibly work is if there was a threshold for maybe how much the game cost and how long, I don't know, and this is where it gets mucky, even muckier, how long the developer believes the campaign should take to beat. Like if you got a 15-hour campaign and you play less than 2 hours and you're like, nah, then maybe that would be okay. But that's going to take so much policing and that's going to be so much work to set up that it's almost not worth it. And I don't think enough people want it enough for it to matter.
That's also not fair for developers. Imagine having Dear Esther as an idea and then having to forcefully drag it out to be above a certain threshold.
Yeah, people will. People
would, because it's...
People lie about the length of their game.
Yeah.
And that will piss even more people off, and then people will get in trouble where they shouldn't have even gotten in trouble in the first place because the stupid rule shouldn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, it's ticked along fine without refunds. I mean, nobody's burst into flame. You know, everyone's still breathing. It's fine. You buy a game that you like the look of it. If it's rubbish, you shrug your shoulders and you don't buy a game by that developer again.
Yeah, and that's why you buy digital as well.
Exactly.
And generally, if you're buying digital, chances are, unless you're Mr. Moneybags or you're waiting for a sale, you're only buying, you know, slightly cheaper digital-only experiences anyway that don't cost a huge amount of money.
No, exactly.
Otherwise, that's exactly why you buy big games physically. Yep. Because then you can get rid of it if you don't want it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about just being sensible with your money, and I don't understand.
It doesn't seem like there should be this was the thing, this is what made me want to talk about it on the show, is that there doesn't seem to be a logical dialogue to it. Everybody that has, you know, outcried from the other side of school of thought, it doesn't make sense to me. So one of our writers, Alex Stinton, just said it works for Steam, so why shouldn't it work for other platforms? And as you said, Steam just, I don't know, they just hemorrhage money. They just seem to have it coming out of every orifice because they have a complete monopoly on that section of the market. So I don't think they need to worry about it. And Steam is so drenched in filth, like Black Tiger.
Yeah, there's infinitely more crap on Steam than there is on... I mean, PlayStation Network is getting there, but Steam is getting like a boatload of nonsense every day. So they do need something like that to... And people will abuse the system. Of course they do. You put any system in place and people will abuse it. But it's just not necessary on console yet.
Not yet. No, exactly. Yet. I agree with that. Not yet. But there you go.
Let us know. Let us know what you think of that.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about that, because it's, like I said, it's one of those ones where the dialogue is just, why is this even being talked about? Someone should have sat up in a boardroom and gone, hang on, this isn't going to work. So, let us know what you think in the comment sections or on Twitter at PushSquarePod. That'd be good.
Yes. Let's move on.
The first thing I should tell you is that I lived here until I was 11. But I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
What are we playing? God, it's been ages.
It has. And guess what? I've only played like 2 games.
Oh, for God's sake. Well, I played some pretty good games.
Yes, you played Edith Finch.
I played What Remains of Edith Finch. I reviewed it for the place that I work for.
What does remain of her little finch?
What Remains of Edith's Finch?
Yes.
Her bird?
Yes.
Well, you'll have to play it and find out. This is so far up your alley, Tarrant. You need to play this game.
I'm on it. I literally texted you, didn't I? I was like, is it a walking simulator? You're like, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you much more because I don't really want to ruin it, but I can give you the brief overview.
Okay.
If people want to know kind of what it is. And as you said, did Pushway give it a 10?
Yes, 10 out of 10.
Deserved, really. It has a couple of issues on PS4. There's some spotty frame rate sometimes, and a few of the textures are a little bit blurry on like some books and things, which is a bit of a shame because it kind of takes you out of it a bit. But
Firewatch had a bad frame rate, and it can't do any wrong in my eyes. So
right, okay, well then. There's nothing this game could do wrong then. You are Edith Finch. You're returning to your family home after an 11-year absence, or a 7-year absence, sorry. You were 11 when you left. You're returning at 18. Your family is often spoken about as having a curse because 4 generations of your family have lived in that house and they have all died off in unusual and tragic and unfair ways, not like genetic illness or whatever, but everyone's died off and a lot of them died quite young.
Right.
So everyone talks about you having a curse and your mother moves out with you, and when she dies, she's dead as well, lol, she gives you a key. So you return to the house with the key and basically it's all narrated by Edith as you're walking around. And as you walk around, much like... Because it's gone home, had a baby with the unfinished swan, which is brilliant, because this giant sparrow made the unfinished swan. Yeah. And the unfinished swan was sort of a mother telling her child a bedtime story, and that's very much a similar feeling here. So as you walk around, Edith will talk, and every word that she says is imprinted on the environment around you.
That's
like
cool.
It's a storybook. So as you walk, there's no need for a run button because there's dialogue like every few feet. It's very linear, but like, not in a bad, not in a bad way. And you'll have to use relevant controls to open doors and windows and stuff, so kind of like Heavy Rain, but without the button prompts on screen. So sometimes that can be a little bit confusing as well, trying to work out what you're actually meant to do. Now, when she lived there, and still to this day, every single bedroom in the house, apart from a few, were completely sealed off, and she wasn't allowed in any of them. And that's why, the trailer says, the house made me uncomfortable, a bit uneasy, and so on and so forth. And the key that you get given is basically your way into the first bedroom. And you go in there, and these bedrooms have been sealed off after that person has died. I mean, the body's not in there, but basically that then provides a snapshot of that person. It's all the environmental storytelling is incredible in this game. So there's photos and magazines and relevant interests on all the walls and stuff like that, and it's completely preserved as it was when that person died, however many years ago, because they've been living there since the 1930s. So there's several generations who died there, and your mother, and when you lived there, your great-grandmother wouldn't tell you about any of them because they just, for whatever reason, they wouldn't tell you. So she's learning this stuff about these people as you are. And all the time she's talking to you. And in each bedroom, there's a document. So it could be a letter from like a surviving sibling to the dead sibling, or from, a journal entry or whatever. Right. And you pick it up and you read it, and then suddenly you're transformed into that person and taken back to that period whenever they were alive, and that is usually quite fantastical and over the top in terms of how it portrays what happened. Right. So the first one is Molly, who died when she was 10, and she's left a journal entry in there of when she was sent to bed without any dinner one night, and she was so hungry, so she ate everything in her room, including toothpaste and gerbil food. And then she heard a bird at the window. She opens the window, and she turns into a cat and starts chasing the cat along the treetops. And you play through all of this, and each bedroom has a similar, completely unique memory experience to it that you come out the other side. And it's all about coping with loss and grief and overcoming, these sorts of issues, and about what your own mortality means to the people that you leave behind and stuff like that. It's very touching, very emotional. It did make me well up a couple of times, and it's only a couple of hours long, but it's absolutely fantastic. And if you have any interest in it, then you should play it because it's brilliant.
That sounds fantastic.
It's so good.
I'm down.
I don't want to call it a what's it called? A walking sim. I've come up with an acronym for it.
Okay.
An FPI, a first-person interactive game.
Okay.
Because I think people have just accepted walking sim as a term, and I don't think it's good enough.
Or an FPE?
First-person
Experience.
Could be.
Yeah.
In my review, I called it a first-person interactive game, so I'm just going to roll with
We
that.
have this dialogue a lot at because I'm studying game development, and a lot of the talk is about what is a game. Obviously, when you're creating a game, you need to know the kind of typical landmarks of what actually makes a game different from the other mediums. And naturally, walking simulators seem to come up quite a lot because they buck a lot of the trends that you find in other games. And interactivity is seemingly the main grounding factor as to what makes something a passive experience and a game experience. So that's not actually a bad term. I quite like that because obviously the Chinese Room were the guys that kind of inadvertently coined walking simulator.
Are you sure? I think people were sort of calling it that as a negative thing for a while.
Yeah, it was it was coined around Dear Esther and stuff.
Right.
They market it now so you can buy like walking simulator t-shirts, which is pretty cool.
That's a shame because I think it's kind of damaging in a way.
It is. It's very reductionist.
People who don't like those kinds of games or don't know much about those kinds of games will hear that and instantly think, well, that sounds rubbish. A walking simulator, are you joking? No thanks.
I mean, I went to a talk with the guys from Chinese Room, and Dan, one of the creative directors, he said on one hand it's an incredibly reductionist term that bars people, like you said. You see it and you go, nah, I don't want to try that. But on the flip side, they have to be genred because then the people that like those types of games can find them. So it's a double-edged sword. Well, start trying to use first-person interactive game. Try and get that across. It's less negative because some games you don't just walk, but you interact, and it is from a first person. Yeah, dude, you should coin that. That's good. I like that.
Thanks, man.
Very
I
good.
think there's probably a better term out there, but I was sick of hearing it, so I just decided I'm going to call it that instead.
You could call it an FPI.
An FPI, if you want to.
First person
do that.
interactive.
It does sound a bit like
experience.
FBI, like the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Bloody hell, I can't even speak. You know what I'm saying, though.
That
It
one.
does sound a bit like that. But yeah, fantastic game. I think people should play it.
Grand.
And
I'm going to
I
play
think
it.
There's a discount with PlayStation Plus, I believe, at the moment.
Ooh, funky.
So look into that.
I shall.
Apart from that, I played a bit of Crash Team Racing with some
Nice.
people. Still incredible. Better
Strong.
than Mario Kart. Go to hell if you disagree. Better
You
than
played
Mario Kart.
the new Dark Souls as well, didn't you? The last bit of DLC for that.
Has that been in this last month? Did we not talk about it last time? I can't remember.
Did we? Oh, we didn't. You didn't. You hadn't played it. I reviewed it.
Oh right, yeah, it was great. It was good.
Yeah. What did you think of Slave Knight?
Which one was that?
The guy with the red hood.
Was that the last one?
Pretty much, yeah.
The last boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah,
of him?
that boss was brilliant.
was
Some
a
of the other
knob.
bosses were kind of disappointing because you kind of had to have a particular build or a particular spell to take them down.
Oh, really?
And there was
What
because
one are you thinking of?
well, there's the big optional dragon, and also the one where you drop off the huge drop, and there are two of them to begin with.
See, a lot of people are moaning about that, and I'm gonna go all like, get good here. But I did it the first time; it was fine. Maybe that's just because my character's build worked for it.
Christ, maybe, I don't know. That was
It was so easy. I was kind of disappointed it was that easy.
maybe there was some. Oh God, did you play it pre-patch? Maybe they changed something. I don't know, but
No,
it was.
I played it pre-patch because originally in the patch there was just one, and then they patched it to being two.
They patched it to being two, so you played it post-patch,
Yes.
postman patch.
Yes.
That's weird. Then maybe you were just on an absolute roll because we were going there as a trying to
Right.
take it down, and it did take a few tries to the extent where we were hitting them with our weapons, and we're on like New Game Plus Plus, and we're going through it, and we're thinking, why are our weapons taking off such little damage?
See, I'm on New Plus 3.
Sorry?
I'm on New Game Plus 3.
Right.
Not sure how much of a difference that's going to make, but yeah.
No, not in terms of difficulty. Not in terms of difficulty. I meant as in, like, our characters were good.
Oh,
like,
right.
We had leveled up our characters in such a way that the equipment that we had was perfect for what we were trying to do, and just our normal weapons were taking off so little damage. It was crazy. So we ended up having to look up on the Dark Souls wiki what it was weak to, and it was some obscure what's it called? Blessing? Faith skill? And so we all just sort of equipped this faith skill that none of us had used before. I was like, right, okay, that's annoying that we had to do that because we were having such a difficult time doing it normally. And then we'd go to another boss like that last one, who was excellent because we could use whatever we wanted and it took off a reasonable amount of damage.
That's so interesting. Because
it was such a shame.
I didn't get that at all. I mean, I have a strength build character because I'm super aggressive, because I'm a Bloodborne guy. And I think I had a Black Cathedral Knight Sword because it's the highest one I've got for whatever. And it was fine. It was absolutely fine. I think I only used 2 Estus flasks as well. It was like super easy. But Slave Knight Gale, oh my god. Like 100 odd tries. It was driving me up the wall. And
oh, really? That we did that one quite quickly.
And obviously, because I'm playing it pre-launch, none of the Dark Souls wiki has anything. There's nobody to summon in. I was completely on my own, and it was
apart from the NPCs.
Well, I didn't have an NPC for there.
For the last one?
No, I didn't have it. I read about.
Actually, I'm not sure if there was one.
I think there is one.
Yeah, it may have been a quest you had to do.
Yeah, exactly. And
oh no, there were 2. I believe there were 2 actually. There were 2 you could summon in there.
Could not find them for love nor money, and obviously I haven't got the wiki to find out. And yeah,
yeah. It was just we just found it. I mean, obviously it's all over the place. It's good to know that there were other people complaining about that though, because we were sat there thinking this is really weird.
Oh, people seem to really hate that first one.
It was bizarre. Like, it confused the hell out of us. Like, why wasn't there any sort of game design informing us that we'd need to kill this boss a certain way? Like coming across a few enemies where you needed to use a certain blessing that you found in the area or a faith skill that you found in the area. But then we came down and we were like, we're just not doing any damage to this guy. It was crazy. But on the whole, great. A good send-off, much better than the last DLC.
Definitely. I thought it was a good send-off, even though I've not, been playing Dark Souls since 1. It did feel like a nice close, and it wraps up the story relatively well as well. I thought,
in a very confusing,
in a typical Dark Souls way.
Yeah. Did you play anything?
I have been pretty poor at playing anything. Like I said previously, I've been doing a lot of external real life stuff. But I bought Necropolis, a diabolically brutal dungeon crawler, I think is its typical term. And picked that up in the Easter sale, which has now ended today, I think. It's brilliant. It's it's really strange. It's speaking of Dark Souls, the way of playing feels very Dark Souls-y, so you have to roll and learn enemy attack patterns. There's only 20 odd array of enemies from what I've seen so far, and you learn all of their animation cycles and when to hit them. But it's got RPG elements in the sense that as you roll through it, you collect new armor and new weapons. But it's completely procedural. So every time you die, which you do over and over and over again, you start back at the beginning of the dungeon and you have to start exploring again, but each room has changed. And there's 10 floors, I believe, to go through, and it can take ages. Like, each floor can take 20 minutes.
That sounds fun.
It's really difficult, but really good fun, and you can do 4-player network. So if you squad it up, it'd be amazing, because I'm playing it solo and really enjoying myself, because it's just the right level of difficult. When I die, I'm like, that was so stupid. I should have done this, and it would have been better, and I can start again knowing how to be better, which is obviously where Dark Souls excels. It punished you, but only because of your own insolence, not because the game was actually difficult.
sounds like it would make me break controllers.
I think if you're playing as a team, because you can revive your teammates and stuff like that, it would completely change.
Right.
Because the AI is quite easy to manipulate. So there's like an especially big fish man, and he's a real knob to take down. But his AI is so easy to get stuck in a corner and cheese.
Right.
So there's a lot of elements that are fine, all things considered, and the whole shipping itself as being brutal. My biggest complaint though is that there's no matchmaking and there's no split screen. It's a game that would be so good on split screen.
Right.
And it would be even better if they had matchmaking. So that every time you boot it up, it comes up saying that you're in slot 1 and slot 2, 3 and 4 are free. And all you can do is invite people on your friends list to play it. But obviously if they haven't got the game, it's irrelevant. And it doesn't tell you who's got the game or who doesn't. So it's a bit... Okay. It just feels really ill-designed, considering it should be designed around the fact that you can play with 4 people. It feels like a very tacked-on element, but an element that would completely change the way you experience the game. So it's rather counterintuitive. But playing it solo, I've been really enjoying it. And the art style is really cool. And the narrator, the humour and stuff that the narrator drops in is pretty cool. It's one of those self-aware ones. It feels very Portal-y in terms of the comedy from the narrator and stuff. So
right,
it was a tenner. It's well worth it. Really good fun. But
that sounds good.
Yeah, it chewed apart yesterday. Like one of those ones where I look at my phone after dying and I'm like, wow, that was 2.5 hours. Never getting that back. And obviously playing Titanfall 2, which is super good fun. And they've just done a glitch in the something. A glitch in the pilots, I don't know, some free expansion that brings up new modes and stuff. The way they've done it is so good. They've made such little tweaks and improvements to the multiplayer on there that just spot on. Like you can pick, they have different playlists, and previously you had to go into a lobby of that playlist. So attrition, which is like team-based, wave-based stuff. You could only play attrition, but now they've set it so that you can pick your favourite playlists and it searches for a game in any of those playlists. So I always like free-for-all, and I love free-for-all games. I always have. I like when I see myself at the top of the score, but it's like I got myself there. I like that feeling. But the free-for-all mode is typically really quite desolate on Titanfall 2. Everyone seems to like attrition, like the big team-based stuff. But if I throw free-for-all into the matchmaking playlist, for me, my personal one, then I'm nearly always put into the next free-for-all game. So it's just little tweaks like that just really improve the experience. And as I mentioned previously, they've got the addition of all the Prime Titans and stuff. So if you've been playing it since launch, you're obviously going to have a real affinity with a certain Titan. Like I absolutely love Legion. I really like playing as Legion. So I grabbed the Prime Legion Titan. And it gives you that bit extra, that kind of identifying factor that's like, yeah, I love playing this Titan, watch out. So a great game. Stupid, like you said, everybody was so apathetic towards it, and it's as a result it's been stupidly underrated. But it is really good, and one of those ones that's just really nice to jump in and out of. So yeah,
cool.
Games,
video games. Let's move on to some questions. Audience question time. You can submit these in all manner of ways. We'll tell you about a bit later on. Now, I did actually put out a request on Twitter for some questions that I'm going to run through now. We need to run through these quite quickly, I think, because we have been going for bloody ages.
We have.
So, first up is Jeff Hedges. He says, why is PlayStation the best name change in future? What? Hang on. Let me just check this, Darren. I don't know what the fuck that means.
A load of them are really shit. His question is, why is the PlayStation the best? Name change, as in, I'm assuming, changing your names. And also, if you roll through it, most of them are just jokes as us being Sony support. I did pick through all the good ones on your Twitter.
Okay, yeah, I've got one now. Shit, I'll make a note. Where's a pen that works? What's this one? This is questions.
You alright, Lauren? Yeah. Just chilling? Yeah. Potter's just sorting some more questions.
Cool.
Okay, you good?
Right, that's that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try that again. So first up, we've got Andrew Webb. He asks, what are you hoping to see next from software? From software, I should say.
What am I hoping to see next? Bloodborne 2.
They've already
definitely.
teased something, haven't they? Well, Bloodborne 2 would be nice. I think they teased something, but they're going to do an Armored Core. It's certainly not that.
They're doing They're doing another Armored Core. I'm not sure if I should say that. They're doing another Armored Core.
I think that was known, right? They did say they were going to do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
They're definitely doing another Armored Core game.
And they were also, I think Bandai Namco teased something.
Yes,
some weird art
Dark
style.
Soulsy, and it said "prepare to die," but didn't say it explicitly.
Yeah, it was similar wording, but it's not a Dark Souls game.
No.
I don't know. I'd like to see a Bloodborne 2 as well.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. But who knows if we'll ever get that. Shaq Collins asks, apart from Farpoint, what are the next AAA titles coming to PlayStation VR? News has dried up a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I think we said this on a previous podcast that they're going to absolutely blow their load for launch. And like any gimmick, it's going to kind of slip off. And it has.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I think they need bigger third party support and maybe more exclusives, because I don't think they've actually made an exclusive game yet, have they? As in, not a big budget one for their own platform.
No,
which is pretty insane. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, they made Rigs, but I don't know if that was like huge budget. You know,
well,
not
who's even
Uncharted
talking
level.
about that anymore?
Oh, it was awful as well. It was rubbish. I didn't like Rigs at all.
Yeah, I mean, like Resident Evil seems to have been one of the big kind of all-in gambles for them, and well, that was an apparent failure. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, hopefully we'll find out some more at E3.
I don't really care either because it makes me feel sick. So.
Samantha Tame asks, how can PlayStation improve PlayStation Plus? Again, we've spoken about this in the past, haven't we? They either need to revamp PlayStation Now to include PS4 titles and make it part of the PlayStation Plus subscription. They need to drop the PlayStation 3 and Vita games and just give us better PlayStation 4 games.
Yep.
Or you just subscribe on a per console basis. So if you want Vita games, you get good Vita games. You want PS4 games, you get good PS4 games. Or you get good PS3 games. And that's probably the best way it would work for everyone, rather than trying to please everyone.
Yep.
Although this month is actually quite good.
This month is very good, yes.
Tales from the Borderlands and
I'm going to try that because I've never tried a Tales game.
Oh, it's excellent.
So I'm going to give it a whirl.
Tales from the Borderlands is brilliant.
I really want to get the Handsome Jack collection as well, Borderlands. So because
I'll play that with you.
Yeah, please do. I played Borderlands 2 on PS3. Loved it.
Yeah.
So
Borderlands 2 is one of my favourite games. I love it.
Be cool to play that co-op as well, man. So yeah.
Yeah. Eden asks, will we ever be able to get a username change? No, probably not, right?
No. Why?
If it hasn't happened now, why on earth would it happen in the future?
Exactly.
I'm not against the idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if it never happens.
Unless they're having a really quiet E3. And then they're
Right.
like, you can change your name. Whoa.
They just say that because they're reading the room and everyone's bored and like, crap, now we've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, work out how to do it. The rest of the questions, thank you so much, everyone who tweeted those at me. Largely, they've all been answered, I think, in the course of the show, like people asking about Call of Duty World War II, etc., etc. Now, Taran, what are the rest of the questions we've had sent in?
So, Demaster, he ran a while ago a little gaming bucket list thread that you can find on Push Square's forums. But he has asked us, what is the gaming bucket list of us? What's our, if there's a game that we want to see come into existence, or if there's an element of a game that we would like to do within our lifetime. What is it? What's on our gaming bucket list? For me, it's a super easy one and relates to a question coming up, but to complete Hyperlight Drifter without dying / without losing my sanity.
Really, that's what you want to be able to have done?
Yeah, I'm just so close to finishing it. Oh, and the 800 chain dash as well. Those two. I want those two. That's it. Everything else is fine. Like, I can let that go. This isn't good.
Right.
This upsets me. Think about it all the time.
I would like to be really good at fighting games. I can't play fighting games, and I think it's the biggest gap in me being able to play games. Or me enjoying games. I just don't like fighting games, and I'm bad at them, but it's the kind of thing that everyone goes, oh yeah, Street Fighter, love Street Fighter, and I'm there like, have you played What Remains of Edith Finch?
That's literally me. But can you walk around in first person?
Yeah, look at all the leaflets in the background. Can we go and read those? I'd love to be able to just go, yeah, all right, I'll have a fight, and not just backflip and crouch and inadvertently block and sometimes pull off an amazing move accidentally. You know?
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'd like to be able to be good at it. I'd like to be able to be good at it, but I'm not good at it. It's a shame. Next question is from Kevin Cox. He asks for the top 2017 PS4 releases that we're currently looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to
Persona 5's
Prey.
out of the way, I don't know.
I'm looking forward to Prey.
Again, this fits into that thing we were talking about earlier. I'm not too fussed. I want to play it. Looks cool, but I could go without it as well. I imagine there's going to be a lot of things announced at E3. And I would like to play Star Trek Bridge Crew, and I'd like to play Farpoint and a couple of other games, but I can't say that they're my top game. I don't know. I don't really care anymore. Persona 5 was the thing I really wanted to play.
Yeah.
That currently there's nothing else on the horizon that I'm looking at thinking, I can't wait for that.
I don't know. I mean, I like the look of Rhyme, but I'm not that bothered.
There's lots of good stuff out there. Just nothing that grabs me.
Nothing that's super grabbing me. I mean, Destiny 2 I'm super looking forward to because I am a massive sap every time I say, oh, I'm never going to play that game. Then I play it and I'm like, oh, it's quite good. I'm looking forward to that. Destiny 2 will be good. I'm looking forward to Star Wars Battlefront 2 as well because I love me a bit of Star Wars. And by like November, the Last Jedi hype train will be fully out of the station. So I'll be on board for that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much. I'm not, like you said, pretty apathetic to everything else. It's like, if it goes cheap, I'll grab it.
Next.
Yeah. So this is from Anchor Sam. So, like you said, a lot of people have asked about Call of Duty, and Anchor Sam's question summarises it quite nicely. So why do you think Call of Duty gets criticised for both remaining the same and changing things up each year? So we kind of touched on this.
Yeah, it can't please everyone. That's the problem.
You
just reached the point. It's just series fatigue, I think.
Yes.
It would have to do something extraordinary to get people buying it again. Maybe a return to World War II is what it needs. Maybe it isn't. Yeah. But as soon as you get in there and you've got that familiar little way marker and the familiar little the hit feedback, you know, when you shoot someone, it makes that noise. And your little aiming reticule has the things around it to show that you've hit someone. You'll be like, I'm playing a Call of Duty game. I don't know. I don't know what they need.
They need to stop.
It's a mystery.
Just throw it in and then reboot it in 5 years' time and be like, whoa, we're back.
I agree, but I feel bad for the 3 studios full of people that would be that would be sent away.
Plus Activision won't be making that mint because it still makes money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it makes tons of
money.
Rudy Manchego asks, just grabbed Hyperlight Drifter. How is Terrance's push for the Platinum going?
Like I said, I'm stuck with I need to complete the game without dying. I need to do the 800 chain dash challenge. And that's it, I think. Oh, and I need to get the last cloak, but the last cloak you only get by doing the chain dash challenge, so they're basically the same thing. So yeah, they're literally my last 3. And they're not feasible by any human stretch. In fact, the chain dash is so difficult on PS4. I'm actually looking at modding it so that I can use a keyboard.
Wow.
So I really want to do it. Like I said, it's on my gaming bucket list. But yeah, well done for picking up Hyperlight Drifter. It's a very, very good game. I bought the physical copy from IM8-bit, and I'm going to frame that bad boy.
Nice.
Very excited, but yeah, brilliant game. So this one's from Robert Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys coping with the sheer amount of good games this year? So we mentioned this as well, that there's just a crazy amount of good games. And do we reckon that this is the best year for PlayStation, even though we're only 5 months in?
I don't, personally. I don't disagree there have been some incredible games, but I can remember years, for me personally, where there were games that I cared more about.
Yep.
Even if they were not largely exclusive. I remember 2009 being insane, with Batman Arkham Asylum, Assassin's Creed 2, Uncharted 2, loads of brilliant games that I actually cared about. Whereas this year there have been brilliant games like Yakuza and Neo and stuff, and Nier, but I don't really want to play any of them.
I don't think there's anything defining. Like you rattled off those games like Assassin's Creed 2, Uncharted 2, that were defining games. They were big games that
Batman
meant
Arkham
something.
Asylum.
Yeah, that meant something. These are all good games that are going to fade into
good games, good niche games, which is a shame.
Yes, exactly. There's not a Last of Us or anything like that popping up.
I know that obviously, what's it called, Yakuza, massive franchise, but at least in the West, it's not mainstream enough to be considered defining. So yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that. Still a very strong start to the year, though. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's a good year so far, definitely. It's going to get better.
It certainly is. Finally, Simon Fitzgerald asks, Potter, are there any VR titles you are looking forward to, such as Farpoint? Well, kind of looking forward to Farpoint. I'd quite like to play that. Star Trek Bridge Crew, I want to try, just to give it a go. What do you do in that game? Are there actually 7 other people in the world with PlayStation VR? I don't know. I suppose I'll find out. I mean, nobody, especially Sony, is really talking about the VR games that are coming out, but every week there's a new VR game.
Oh, really?
They're being released.
Wow.
But no one's talking about them, and they're largely quite small and inconsequential. Maybe could be argued that they're overpriced, and because no one's talking about them, you don't know if they're good or not.
Right.
And I'm not willing to take that gamble.
Catch-22.
Because I don't play with my headset enough as it is, really. So yeah, I don't really know. It's kind of being sent out to die, which is a real bloody shame.
But also it was to be expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kind of was. I don't regret buying it, but at the moment, there's not too much that I'm looking forward to on the horizon.
Fair enough. So, rounding off our audience questions, this is a little kind of shout out for Big Cop Man, whose daughter Faith was born at 3:40 p.m. on the 12th of April. So, congratulations, Big Cop Man. That's great to hear.
Congratulations. She'll be free running and tattooing a weird black mark over her eye really soon.
I was like, what?
There he is. He's got it. He got there eventually. But if you have any questions for us, you can ask them in the Push Square forums. We're under the online and communities section and stickied right to the top. Alternatively, you can email us directly via our email, podcast@pushsquare.com.
We also have a Twitter account where you can ask us things and join in with all kind of shenanigans. I got a new phone and kind of forgot the logins, so we were quite quiet this month. But I will be more active on that going forward, and that's at Push Square Pod. So give us a follow, that'd be great. Excellent. We're almost at 100 followers, so I can do some kind of a fancy giveaway if we hit 100. That'd be nice.
100 followers, huh? Come on, guys, that's embarrassing. Get those numbers up. Come and follow us. Rookie numbers, right? Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
I was quite proud of it, but there you go.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man.
I'm not proud of our listeners. I know there's more than 100 of them.
Make Potter proud.
I know there's more than 100 of them out there. It's embarrassing. Come on, you're letting yourselves down. Tarrant, you're going to make Tarrant cry. He works hard on that. It's not fair.
When I remember the logins.
When he remembers the logins, yeah. Kenny Loggins. Anyway, let's move on to the end of the show.
So unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this month, but be sure to keep it locked to...
3 hours in.
Yeah, all we've got time for. But keep it locked to pushsquare.com for the best PlayStation content on the internet in the form of daily news, reviews, features, and loads more.
And if you'd rather... Oh, hang on, I misread that then. I feel like you've rewritten this outro.
I have.
It's confusing me.
Messed you up.
And if you'd rather that content come straight to your social media feeds, then follow us on Twitter at PushSquarePod. That's at PushSquarePod, at PushSquarePod. Nearly said it wrong. Or find us on Facebook.com/push_squoojare because this is written really well. I didn't do that. Facebook.com/push_squoojare. And if you want to see rather than read because you're lazy like me, head to youtube.com/pushsquare where you can find streams, vlogs, and other video form shenanigans. But Tarrant, what if they'd like to hear more of us?
The Push Square podcast can be found on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes, where a 5-star review of our hard, long work would be super appreciated. Or if you want to hear more of what we've done previously, then pop to pushsquare.com// bloody hell, we're messing this up, /podcast, where you will find a nice little archive of all the other episodes. So if you're new, welcome, and start listening at the beginning, because it's all brilliant stuff.
Yes. Is that it? We done?
You got one more line, man. We got to do the punch in the face.
Oh,
this is awful. I am never rewriting the outro again.
So I was just texting on my telephone because I'm so over this.
Wow.
Keep it locked to pushsquare.com, the best PlayStation site on the internet, and if anyone tells you otherwise, you can punch them in the face. That's a rule. Jesus.
We got there. That was
delayed.
That was painful.
Weird. Yeah, well, we did it. Hey,
we got there.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you very much for making it to the end.
Thanks, Tarrant. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Potter.
All right, we'll see you soon, guys. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Push Square Podcast. For the latest PlayStation news, reviews, and features, visit www.pushsquare.com.